Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. Tonight I am joined by...
You're frozen up or yours?
I'm sorry? I think we may be having
I'm freezing.
technical...
Is that on my end or yours?
Can you hear me?
I got you there. You're fading. You're freezing up.
So tonight I am joined by Dr. David Benac. He is running in Michigan and for District 6 in a congressional campaign. He was a Bernie delegate, and you guys know how I feel about that. Those are my favorite kind of candidates. So thank you so much for joining us, David. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking the time to give me an interview.
Absolutely. So you actually, as I introduced you, you are a doctor, but you are actually a history professor. So what inspired you to get into that?
It was something I've always enjoyed, even from when I was pretty young. It's just, to me, what is exciting about history is the stories. And it's really fun to be able to dig into why something happened and try and understand how one past event shades into another one. I think that it's the stories that make history exciting.
And is this kind of reminiscent of like 1984, Soylent Green? Do you draw similarities to anything?
Well, there's a lot of similarities. You know, as a historian, I tend to shy away from saying one is next to the other. But you know, what I'm always worried about is that we're facing down 1968 again, where the Democratic Party ripped itself apart over what was going on in the nation. And I'm really terrified that if we don't do something, then that's what's going to happen. And honestly, I'm a Bernie guy, but I still say that we have to get past the Bernie Hillary thing. But from my perspective, the only way we're getting past that is if we embrace the younger, energetic, activist left of the party, because that's where the party's got to head. That's where the future is.
And how do you recommend we do that? Because especially online, on social media, there is still so much vote shaming. There is still just so much, there's hatred, there's ugliness, and there's quite honestly, there's quite a lack of willingness to go progressive from a lot of staunch establishment Democrats.
Yeah, well, you could take it a lot of ways, but the first part of your question is the vote shaming. And I find very little as offensive as that. I don't care if you voted for Trump, Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter. There's nothing more sacred in the United States than your vote in an election. You vote for who you want to win. And if we don't have the ability to do that, then we're basically throwing away democracy. And so we do not have any right to tell anyone else how to vote. It's up to the candidates to earn those votes, every single last one of them. And I think if we approach that, we respect democracy, we respect people's free choice, then I think that goes a long ways. You respect that one person has the right to a different opinion, as wrong as it may be, and then you just talk about it.
Yeah, it's interesting when I interview delegates, because I was at the convention as well, but I was on the outside, like shaking the fences and chanting and marching. So it's very interesting. I had a basement dweller party 2 weeks ago with 3 different Bernie delegates, just to kind of share our experiences and everything. So after, what we went through, what made you decide to still run Dem?
There's a lot. The Democratic Party has to be the future of the United States. It just has to be. There's no two ways about it. There's not another option. I love third parties as much as the next person, but we have a system that's designed to exist with two parties. That's it. And we can change that, but we can't change that right now. We don't have the opportunity. The Democratic Party has a lot of really amazing roots. The Democratic Party has done a lot of wonderful things for the United States. It's time for us to get back to that. I mean, that's really what makes me affiliate with the Democratic Party. Is the Democratic Party is what's going to protect labor. The Democratic Party is going to protect the environment. It's going to protect women's rights. It's going to protect LGBT rights. It's going to protect civil rights. It's going to do something about climate change. The Democratic Party has the only platform to correct the problems that are facing us down and threatening to destroy everything that's great about the United States. So we've got to stand up and protect one another and protect the planet.
Did you read about the meeting they had on Saturday? It was like some banquet dinner for 250 people, invite only. It was a meeting about how to keep progressives out.
No, this is new.
Yeah, it literally was a meeting to keep progressives out. So those are the things that concern us. Should you, win and get into office and everything, are you willing to stick to these progressive ideals and take them on and say, look, the platform says we stand for this. Let's do it. Let's, I think part of it is you're against money, big money in politics. That is the first thing without question. So should you be elected, are you going to make it, a goal of yours to discuss that with other people in Congress?
Absolutely. That goes back to the roots of why I'm running. So I was at the Democratic National Platform Committee meetings as a delegate for Senator Sanders. And that's the kind of things that we were arguing for. We wanted to end fracking. We wanted to end the School of the Americas, where we train terrorists. We wanted to increase the cap on Social Security taxes. We wanted to put Glass-Steagall back in place to regulate the banking industry. And I left that meeting after having the Bernie people had gotten shot down on every single one of those issues. And I left saying, all right, the Democratic Party is not protecting the environment. It's not protecting Social Security. It's not trying to accomplish world peace. It's not trying to regulate banks. What the heck's the problem? And you know what? It's not the Democratic Party. It's not the party's problem. It's not any individual's problem. It's that we've fallen into this mindset that the only thing that matters is money. And when you believe that the only thing that defines a quality candidate is how much money he or she can raise, then what you end up doing is you end up electing fundraisers. You're not electing candidates, you're electing fundraisers. And they're going to continue to raise funds rather than represent the people. And I think that our only solution is to stop electing fundraisers and start electing representatives.
Absolutely. Like Byrne says, it's not a win, it's a purchase. And that's right on.
Something on the line, another kind of bumper sticker thing I stole from borrowed, he let me use it. Shardo Richardson, great guy running in Florida, really principled candidate. I really hope he wins. But one of his phrases is it's time that we stopped having auctions and got back to having elections.
Yes, absolutely. Right on. When I was doing my research, I saw that you've actually been running for over a year.
Yeah.
So it's grueling. I don't think a lot of people appreciate, just how time consuming and involved it is. So are you still currently teaching?
Absolutely. So I'm a teacher and I'm teaching full-time loads. I'm actually even teaching summer classes. Yeah, I'm a teacher. We all know teachers don't get paid very much. I can't afford to quit my job to run for office. And that's kind of the people I'm running against in this campaign. Every one of them has all quit their job. They're all wealthy enough to do that. One of them is a corporate lobbyist. One of them's a D06 guy. And then another one's just a business first moderate. But they've all been able to do that. And what we need is, it's the brand new Congress thing. We need working people to represent working people.
Absolutely. And speaking of BNC, you are endorsed by a brand new Congress and Justice Democrats. That's what I meant.
Yep.
So that's pretty awesome to have your face up on next to other people who are also, you know, totally blowing up and making waves.
Yeah.
As I kind of made a remark before we went live, I'm not seeing like nearly as much hype in 2018 as I was hoping I would. How are you getting people excited to vote?
Well, we're working on it. So actually going back to what you were saying before in terms of timeline, I've been running the campaign now for more months than there are days left before the primary. So we launched in the beginning of May, and our primary is on August 7th. So we're looking at like 12 days until primary day. So we're just about into full-blown get out the vote mode. And, you know, it's what we're doing is the same. I set out as my strategy from day one.
There you go. I'm sorry, you cut out for a minute. If you can hear me, if you could just exit out and come right back in. Let me see if I can message him. Sorry, guys. It's a bummer when this happens, but, you know, we have like zero budget. So, and I'm in one of my spare bedrooms. So.
Oh, I just heard.
Oh, sorry. There you are. I was complaining how this is
we're back.
You know, like not exactly a professional setup. So I'm sorry. Continue.
No, it could be on my end. You know, we have a kind of spotty Wi-Fi in the office. It's kind of a ongoing issue. Yeah. So I'm not sure where I broke off. Let's go to the
kind of like at the beginning of the question. Like right when you started answering.
Oh, are you back?
Yes.
Okay, it looks like we may be live again. Cut back up?
Yep, we're good.
All right, good. All right.
So
yeah, we're good.
Can you just repeat your answer because none of us heard any of it.
And
we lost. Oh, there he goes. Sorry, guys.
Okay, were you there?
Yes. So
I'll get you.
How do you inspire people to get out and vote?
Oh, okay. All right. So the question about how do we get people inspired to vote? I think it is giving people agency and the ability to take part. And so we started from the beginning. The strategy was doors. You know, it's doors, doors, doors. And I believe that we live in a political moment when the most important thing is people having an opportunity to have face-to-face communication. That's the only way you're going to convince people today. Social media is great. It's better than television. Television is garbage in terms of getting out your message. Yeah, but what we've done in terms of getting people out to vote is I don't think that there's anything as helpful as getting people involved. That's why we've got a really amazing and huge volunteer team. And people want to be involved. People want to feel like they're making a difference. And when people come in and they volunteer the first time, they're a little bit nervous that first time. Like, oh, I've never knocked on doors before. I'm kind of scared. Are people going to be mean to me? And then they go out and do it once. And then all of a sudden they want to come back the next day. And the next day we just, a kid who just started helping us, he just told us he wants to knock doors every single day until the primary now. So it's, you give people a chance to do something, to be active, and people love the opportunity.
It's kind of a rush. Like you get to contact people these you don't know and kind of like, you know, ask them, not in an invasive way, but ask them things and then kind of, you know, sell them on a better future, as cheesy as that sounds. You have, of course, Medicare for All on your platform. That's like a deal breaker for so many people. Can you address why you have that on your platform? What made you inspired to put that on there?
Yeah, and just real quick to tag on to what you're saying about taking part is I think one of the real strengths of a volunteer-driven campaign is that every other political figure, every other bit of the political establishment, the mainstream media is telling people that you can't do anything by yourself. You can't change it. You know, but so when you come take part in a campaign that says, hey, you're the only way it can change, I think that's a complete flips the script and gets people excited. And then on Medicare for All. So, you know, I believe that creating a true single payer universal healthcare system is absolutely the single most important thing we can do to help the most people in this country the most dramatically. And because of that, it has to be the most important issue that we're advocating for every single day.
Absolutely. Something I really, really loved about your website was you actually had mental health on it in a separate category. And it's not typical that I see that, but it's so important and so overlooked. So why did you decide to give that its own little asterisk?
Yeah, and so we spent some time talking about that as a campaign, whether it should be separate or included, because I don't want it to be seen as something that I think of as separate, because healthcare is healthcare. Mental health should be seen as healthcare, not as something completely separate. But I pulled it out because I think that one of the biggest problems we have right now is a real lack of mental health care in this country. If you want to look at education, you want to look at suicide, you want to look at farmers, you want to look at LGBT, you want to look at women's issues, you want to look at mass shootings, you want to look at any issue. The more research I did into all these policy statements I've been writing, it just blew my mind. And like suicide and depression popped up in everything, whether it's farming, infrastructure, women's issues, labor issues. It's like suicide, depression keeps coming up. And we've got to get a handle on this. And we have to make sure that every single person in this country has the easy ability to get mental health treatment and not have to worry about the cost or the stigma.
Absolutely. That's so important. I notice you have a bunch of signs behind you. One says protect our lakes. So what does that mean specifically?
Well, you know, being in Michigan, we're surrounded by the Great Lakes, which is roughly 20% of all of the fresh water that's above ground in the entire world is in our Great Lakes. And we have a lot of problems with what's going on. One of the biggest ones for me is Line 5. It's an issue. Just you say Line 5 in Michigan and everybody immediately knows what you mean. It's one of the hottest issues here. But what it is it's Enbridge, the oil company. It's a pipeline through which they're transporting crude through the Straits of Mackinac. The pipeline is over 60 years old. It was only built to last for 50 years. It's way past its permitting. There's been a lot of studies that shows it's completely unsafe. And every single analysis shows that it's one of the riskiest places in the entire world to put a pipeline. The Straits of Mackinac are incredibly rough current. When that pipeline ruptures, because it will rupture, there's going to be at least 700 miles of Michigan lakeshore is going to be covered with oil. And depending upon when it happens, if it happens in the wintertime when it's under heavy ice, if it happens when there's heavy storms, it could be much worse. And it's a pipeline that we could absolutely replace. There's lots of different alternatives. And this is just an indication of the lack of foresight, the lack of planning, that we've got a pipeline in the Straits of Mackinac. I mean, there's no worse place to put this thing. And then, then there's all the other issues. Like, I'm really concerned about agriculture. And I think we need to get away from the chemical intensive monocrop system. And part of that is because most of the nitrogen applied to our crops ends up in our water and causes ecological damage. We've got the issue with invasive species. We've got Asian carp coming into the lakes. I could go on. Environmental issues are like my absolute deepest passion. So I could go on protecting the lakes for 3 hours. So I'll stop with the top ones there.
That's really fascinating. I'm in Pennsylvania. I had absolutely no idea about that. We have a hell of a lot of pipelines here too, and it's just disgusting. They put them underneath kids' schools. They put them on people's property and tell them they can't do anything about it. It's just, yeah, you're right. They're not planning ahead. They're waiting until something happens, which is pretty terrifying. So as far as, green things go, like on that note, do you support a federal job guarantee to enact all of these things?
Yeah. This is one of my running jokes at candidate forums and at town halls, because we have town halls all the time. It's a big part of my campaign. We need to be accessible. You need to see us, because the incumbent in my race hasn't had a town hall in like a decade. So we've made a point of doing 20 of them during the campaign already. But one of my running jokes is that we need to make sure that we protect our lakes and our streets and our rivers and everything. And this is a place where I agree with Trump. Yeah, then I pause for effect. I agree with Trump. And I agree that we need the $1 trillion investment in our infrastructure. Now, the way that he proposed doing it is absolutely ridiculous. We can't improve our $1 trillion infrastructure by throwing a few pennies at it and then making the counties and the states pay for the rest of it and privatize and everything else. But we need $1 trillion investment from the Fed, from the federal government. That is going to put 11 million people to work. That's the core of a jobs program. That jobs program is going to be fixing our roads. That jobs program is going to be building railroads. It's going to be making sure every single school in this country has clean water. It's going to make sure, and one of the things that's important to me, part of that infrastructure is rural broadband. My grandparents got electricity to their farm from the Rural Electrification Administration. And, it was a WPA, a New Deal project that, took electricity to farms because there was no profit motive for electrical companies to do that. So I would love to see, and I would push for a Rural Electrification Administration type project to put broadband. So we need broadband in every single school, every single home, every single business in the United States. And we can do this. We've done it in the past. It's something we need to do again.
Right on. And also the beauty of the federal job guarantee is it helps with depression so much. It helps with mental health because you're not, suicidal from not having a job and such. So yeah, you're totally right. What else are you passionate about as far as green energy goes?
One of the things I really want to see gain some traction is the Off Fossil Fuel Act that Tulsi Gabbard has introduced into Congress. I think that this is our future, being able to get off of fossil fuels completely. If we want to do something about the pipelines, we need to stop having a need for fossil fuels. If we want to do something about national security, we need to stop relying upon going to war with other countries so we can steal their oil. We need to have a completely green energy, renewable economy so that we can protect our national security, so we can create jobs, put people to work, and create a much more healthy planet.
Absolutely. You also, as far as your district, do you have for-profit prisons?
There's for-profit prisons in the area, and it's a major issue. And one of the things that is a concern for the migrant community here is that the migrant community is going to be, it's going to be how we fill those beds that we need to contractually fill if you can't get anybody else. And there's a lot of concern, a lot of fear in the community. We have a lot of migrant farm workers. It's a very rural district.
I'm not sure if you saw this today, but Bernard actually came out that he drew up legislation to end the bail system for cash bail.
Oh, good. No, I didn't hear that. I was just talking with people about that. I did a Pints and Politics this evening right before I came up here, and that was one of the things we spent a lot of time talking about.
Yep, he just came out with it today. I just posted the article like an hour ago. But that's huge.
That's great. It is. And I was talking about, because of democracy, one of the biggest problems I think that we face from a democracy perspective is pretrial detention. These tens of thousands of people all over the country are locked up in county and city jails because they can't pay cash bail. And they haven't been convicted of a darn thing, and they're being deprived of their right to vote. Yeah, we need to stop that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've read stories about, people of color being stuck in jail for like an extra month because they can't come up with $50 to get out.
Right.
It's abhorrent. So yeah, he addressed that today. And, even if it doesn't pass, we have it on the table now. It's getting traction. It's getting articles on it and stuff. And that's the beauty of people like yourself running, because even though not everybody does win, you kind of inadvertently force your opponents to go a little more left. They kind of don't really have a choice in some respects.
But are they committed to stay there?
What's that?
I said, but are they committed to stay there is the thing.
Absolutely not.
You see that all the time. Yeah, we put the progressives push people to the left, but then as soon as the progressives out of the race, then the establishment runs back to the right as fast as they can go.
So is it just yourself and the incumbent, or how many people are there?
Four-way primary.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a four-way primary. And the way I talk about it, so we have the guy who calls himself a business first moderate. And then we have, he's a good guy, but then we have the one who is the neoliberal with the DCCC backing, who tries to say everything and nothing at the same time. And then we've got the corporate lobbyist who's given money to the Republican incumbent for every single one of his reelection campaigns in the past 30 years. That's the field.
It seems like I'm hearing a lot of that across the country. So what can you say to people who are watching so that they feel inspired to actually get out and participate in these primaries?
So I was at an event with the local Out Center that was doing a brunch for the fundraiser. And they had Mara Kiesling in. She's a trans rights advocate, really great, powerful person, been doing tremendous work. And the narrative thread of her speech was optimism. It was really powerful. And after the speech, I talked to her, said, "Hey, I love that. I'm going to steal it and use it in all of my stumps." And she said, "It's yours. Go ahead." So I have permission. And it's optimism is the core. We have to remain optimistic. The establishment, the right wing, wants to beat us down. They want us to think that our vote doesn't matter. They want us to think our voice doesn't matter. They want us corporations, and only the ultra wealthy can influence the system. They want us to stay at home. They don't want us to march. They don't want us to write letters. They don't want us to yell and scream. They don't want us to protest. We have to. And even though it doesn't work more often than it does, The moment we give up hope, the moment we give up optimism that we can do something about it, we have given up any chance of winning. That's how we lose, is the moment we lose optimism. So my message to the voters is, even if it is terribly difficult, even if you question it in your soul, you have to be optimistic. That is the only hope for our future.
And also now we have so many amazing candidates to vote for. Like it's not like it's like, in the general of 2016 when it was like crap against crap. Like we have choices because of all the Bernie crats and everything like that. California, 21% came out to vote.
Yeah,
that's heartbreaking. It's incredible. So I'm sure my audience just gets so sick of me just saying vote, vote, vote. But I'm in Pennsylvania. We already had our primary, so now I have to harass everyone else. You on your platform, you also talk about women's rights, and sometimes I have male candidates on who don't have that on their platform. Not that they don't support it, but that it could be an oversight or what have you. Why is that on your platform?
Because at the bottom of my campaign, what it really boils down to is we have to lift up everyone. And I tend to focus on economic issues because I see economic issues and healthcare combined as the ways that we can lift up the most people. And I think this is one of the things that we learned from Trump. And we have to learn. There was a major lesson that taught there, is that everybody in this country, other than the top 10%, is suffering. White men, white women, Black and Hispanic and Asian and Native American. It doesn't matter who you are. People are suffering. But I don't want to say that and say I don't recognize that women and minorities and the LGBTQ community have suffered much more, and they have suffered much worse indignities and inequalities than most of the white population, most of the white male population in particular. And unless we white men who have the privilege, have the opportunity, have had society on our side, stand up and say, I'm going to stand next to you and be your ally. I'm going to take leadership from you, and I'm going to advocate for the things that you say are important. That's my responsibility.
Absolutely.
Did we lose it again?
Oh no, I thought we were, but I think we're good. When you go canvassing, what are the things you hear about the most? What are people the most concerned with?
That's been really interesting. So we have canvassed a ton. That's been our strategy. And we always ask people what their most important issues are. And we find that it differs between communities. And healthcare is something that's, top 3 everywhere we go. Doesn't matter. And then it depends on news cycle as well. When there's been a recent mass shooting, which is altogether too common, then people are concerned about guns. But what it really comes down to, the most common things we hear: healthcare, education, and infrastructure. That's what most people tell us at the doors. Something that was intriguing is that we have never heard people say that they need more jobs. Never. But we often hear people say they need better jobs. And that's something that it really drives home this point. They want to say the economy is doing so well because there's more jobs than there are workers. That's crap. There's more crap jobs than there are workers. We don't need to create more poverty level jobs. We need to create more living wage jobs. People don't want a third or a fourth job. They want one job that pays the bills, that allows them to have time to spend with their family, to take up a hobby, to be part of their community, to contribute to democracy, to do something productive. We absolutely have to put people to work in living wage jobs.
Absolutely. And what do you feel is the living wage? I know a lot of people are fight for 15. Is would that cut it in your area, or do you think
It'd be a
that's
major improvement. I'll say that. And I'm advocating for $15 federal minimum wage. I think that we absolutely have to get there. If you use the way the economists, you know, calculate a minimum wage or a living wage in Michigan, in most of the state, the living wage is between $21 and $22. And no, I'm not advocating for a living wage as the minimum wage. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying, we have a minimum wage, it's $15 an hour. And then we re-empower our unions, get union labor out there to do the negotiating and find ways that they can work with ownership and find ways that ownership can still be productive and make money and keep their businesses open while at the same time paying living wage to highly skilled workers who are the most productive workers we've ever had in U.S. history.
absolutely? And you do you address unions quite a bit on your page. You also made a video about it today, and so you talk about workers' rights and stuff as well. Can you kind of address why that's important to you?
It's important because that's the basic element of people's lives. You work for a living. I mean, take the phrase, you work for a living. So you go out there and you work hard, and as a result of working hard, you should be able to live well, live comfortably. And unless you have union organization, you have no rights in the workplace, is what it really comes down to, because it's you against your employer. And in that power dynamic, the employee always loses. There's no negotiating power at all. And to me, the most complex question we have for our future is automation. I mean, let's say we talk about global warming. Yeah, the solution is simple. Get off fossil fuels. Talk healthcare. The solution is simple. Single payer system. I mean, these solutions are simple in that we know what the answers are. They're difficult to get there, but we know what the answers are. But when it comes to automation, we don't have a good answer. Nobody has a good answer. It looks like you're freezing. Are you good there?
No, I'm good. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
We can't stop automation because automation is what makes us human. We've been doing this since we invented the wheel. We can't do the machine tax. That just tries to artificially stop it. We have to find a way to work with mechanization. And I argue that the best way to do that is through unions. I talk a lot with the UAW representatives here. And when they were a more powerful union, in their contract, they had a clause that said that if a factory or if an employee lost their job because of automation, then the plant owner had to set that employee up with a different job in the same factory. And then it gets to it's a simple cost benefit analysis. Then you're not handicapping the employer. You're just saying, is bringing in that machine save you enough money that you can transfer this worker to a different place? And if it does, sure, bring in the machine. If not, don't. And that means that a worker doesn't lose their seniority. They don't lose their benefits. They don't have to go back into worker retraining and learn an entirely new job. They don't have to go back in the job market. They're 55, 60 years old. How hard is it going to be for them to find a new job? So I think that we absolutely have to put the protection of unions as one of our main goals.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If you want to leave our viewers with something to inspire them to recommend this show to their friends or tag their friends with your website, anything like that, what do you want people to take away?
From today?
From this interview, yeah.
Okay. This is a really important and unique moment. I'm sure you've heard that from everybody who's been on, and we all hear that from so many people. But to me, I think we are faced with a point, because I'm a history teacher, so I look at this in a historical perspective, and I see that we are faced with a choice, and we're looking at how we got here and where we're going to go in the future, and the choice is simple. Are we going to opt to continue to choose corruption? Corruption is the narrative of our time. If we want more corruption, keep electing fundraisers and telling them to go represent you, because they're not going to. They're going to represent their donors because they're fundraisers. That's what they are. Or we can turn away from corruption and turn to democracy. If we want to turn to democracy, we have to elect representatives. Now, they may not have as much money. They may not have the flashy, advertisements or whatever it is, but you know what? Those representatives are talking to people, listening to people, going into people's communities, knocking on the doors, asking what the issues are. And when they get to the State House or the Capitol building, their first issue is going to be democracy and representing people. That's, to me, it's a stark choice. Corruption, democracy. You choose.
Absolutely. We create our own future, and I know damn right well I want to be on the right side of history, and I'm pretty sure other people should want that too. I digress, but E pluribus, I have no idea who that is. You can message Real Progressives if you'd like, and just address it to me, and they'll forward it. Sorry. So thank you so much for joining us. And your primary date?
August 7th. It's very soon, August 7th.
August 7th. And are you closed or open?
We are, they say it's open, but it's kind of semi-open. You get a ballot that has Democrat on one side, Republican on the other, and you cross. You have to vote all in one column.
Right. Okay. So you guys, anyone who's watching, please send this to, actually my code, just put your website in the comments, forward that to any of your friends in Michigan, or also share this. Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck. This Friday, I am kind of taking a little hiatus, and I'm coming back Saturday, which is an odd night for me, but I'm actually going to be interviewing Jeff Weaver at 5. He was Burns' campaign manager in 2016 for his presidential run, and he's also been his campaign manager off and on for like 32 years. So we're going to discuss a lot of stuff, and it might get pretty savage. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, please share, and thank you once more, David. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay.